hard balance is after all the holiday spending. I have something that can save you money right now. Cut your cell phone bill in half by switching to Pure Talk's Saver Plan for just $20 a month for unlimited. My wireless company. Head to puretalk.com/Owens and make the switch today in as little as 10 minutes. Again, I also want to tell you guys about Riverbank Ranch because if you have beef has just been placed on the top of the food pyramid of the USDA. Beef is a complete protein and contains all 9 essential amino acids that your body needs to function. It also keeps you fuller for longer, reducing cravings and snacking. It is one of the most nutrient-dense foods out there, packed with protein, iron, zinc, and B vitamins that help support energy, strength, and overall health. So if you are looking to make smarter choices for your health this year, Riverbank Ranch is the perfect place to start. For the last 35 years, Riverbank Ranch has been creating an elite Angus herd by using ultrasound technology to select genetically superior cattle with a focus on flavor and tenderness. They only use the top 1 or 2% of the entire Angus population as their breeding stock, producing beef that has much more flavor and tenderness than your average Angus beef. All Riverbend Ranch cattle are born and raised here in the USA. They never use growth hormones or antibiotics. You can actually taste the difference for yourself. Head to riverbendranch.com today. Use promo code Candace at checkout and you'll get $20 for your first order. Again, we have got to the point where literally anything is fully working out without knowing how to code. This is base 44. We were like a week or two before you left Daily Wire. It's been a while now. And obviously, a lot of things have transpired, right? You've had a meteoric rise. Congratulations. Meanwhile, your opposition, Ben Shapiro, has had a meteoric downfall. Can you kind of take me through that day of what happened when, because I remember you had been in Miami for a bit, and then I think you might have went back to Daily Wire for like a day or two, and then they said, hey, we're going to get rid of you, blah, blah, blah. Can you kind of take me through how that all transpired and how you've been able to kind of use that cancellation from their perspective to just really destroy them and flip the rules? So, gosh, I was fired in March of 2024, and I obviously was very surprised about it. I did not know it was coming. Even if I sensed it was coming, I would never have thought that it would have happened in the way that it happened. I would have thought that we would do everything that we can to keep things friendly. I mean, you don't want to work for any company. It's just unprofessional to want to work, to dedicate years of your life to any company and not have things, even if they're not on great terms, you still want to make it as peaceful as possible. TMZ reported, and I have to ask you this because I've always been wanting to ask you this. They reported that one of the reasons why they wanted to get rid of you is because you did the show with us, and when we talked about Jews, we hit the sound effect, the cha-ching sound effect, and that, I guess, that infuriated Ben Shapiro. Is that true, or? I know where that leak came from. Okay. And it came. Gosh, am I allowed to say anything about this? She no longer works for the Daily Wire, and I think she was behind that leak. Yeah, so she no longer works for Daily Wire. So that was interesting. I can neither confirm or deny whether or not that is true. But what I will say is I would have never expected that sort of a PR. I mean, it's just the opposite of the way that I am. I mean, I've worked with several companies. I work at Prager Review. I'm obviously very long disagreements with them now. I had a very peaceful working relationship with them. They treated me fantastically. I've said it 1,000 times. Like, when I think about them now and what their contributions are to what we're fighting, I could never go back and say one bad word about how they treated me. They were really good employers and very communicative. I never had an issue. I mean, I think my contract with Preview was like 2 pages. I'm not even kidding. It was crazy. Marissa never even wanted to talk about contracts. She's like, if we ever have to talk about the contract, she was like, you should probably leave because like, I don't want you here if you're not happy. Yeah. Obviously had a very great relationship with Charlie Kirk, Turning Point USA. So for me, having never had any sort of a debacle ever in my life, in terms of working for people, it was new, it was global, there was so much happening, and I didn't know if we were going to survive it. Genuinely, my husband and I, it felt like it's like trench warfare. Your every move, you're not even thinking about the implications. It's like, I just have to put one foot in front of the other and fight. And I first of all, just grateful to God that my husband was just rock solid. I think if my husband had shown even a fraction of apprehension, fear, anything, I probably would have come apart. And this again gets back to the importance of marriage, because there are things that men are designed to deal with. Women are designed. Like I was good on the psychology games of what they were trying to do in terms of just getting down and building the infrastructure. And like, okay, we need to rebuild the podcast. We gotta do this. We gotta figure this out. we laugh now. I mean, even because my team came with me, which was something that was also a huge blessing. I'm so grateful to my team because I went to them and I was like, I don't know if this is going to work. We can't offer you health insurance. We have nothing. So if you leave the comfort of where you are taking a risk. Yeah. And we don't know where this thing is going to end. And also, we're like being banned from society. So the chances of this podcast working, we're banned from everywhere. Even YouTube demonetized us. It was slim to none, and they were just like, we're coming with you. So to look back on that, it's just a tremendous amount of gratitude and appreciation for the audience, my team, and first and foremost, my husband.
So you helped him through that process. Because I remember it was all over the place, and obviously there was an enormous amount of pressure, but you were able to use that to your favor. You get let go from Daily Wire. You start up your own thing, and obviously this topic is a very controversial topic when it comes to Zionism, Jewish power, and these other things. And it led to some things. What red pilled you on this topic that made you say, I got to speak up? Even though this is a very taboo topic, you get, like you said, deal with demonetization, cancellation, losing an employer. What made you say, I got to speak up on this?
I want to get into heaven. I think people don't realize that that's real. I think people who are atheists don't understand that a part of this whole psych operation was to make you an atheist. Because if you knew for certain that when you die, there is more, which there is, you would be living your life differently, right? I want to get into heaven. And so at the very moment that I know anything is true, I can't tell a lie, right? So when I was working, and giving the example again for PragerU, I genuinely wasn't up on the topic of Israel. It wasn't kind of a common discussion. There was no pressure on me to get out there and say things that are pro-Israel. I just genuinely believed it in the same way that I tell people Charlie Kirk just believed it. There's no conspiracy. He just was like, yeah, Israel, I'm Christian, and obviously Israel has biblical connotations, and so I support Israel almost like it's a periphery.
Yeah, it's like a default setting.
Yeah, it's a default setting. Yeah, factory setting, and people who attack that and assume that everyone's in on an agenda should stop doing that. The moment that it kind of became obviously after October 7th, they were kind of demanding that you take a side. I watched Bassem Youssef. This was truly the mental turning point for me. He went on to Piers Morgan and it went viral. And he held up this paper where he showed how many deaths there were every year of Palestinians versus Israelis. And I will never unsee that. And he was being totally a jackass about it. Was just kind of using humor, which is the best tool, and being like, so what's the equation of how many lives are worth? So I'm going, okay, so I'm supposed to believe these are the evil people, but this is how many people. And then I had Norm Finkelstein on my show, Daily Wire, because I was like, let me go to someone who actually is not an anti-Semite. Right? His parents survived the Holocaust, and he's a professor who was denied tenure for a ridiculous reason because he's committed to telling the truth about Gaza, and he wrote so many books on it. And that to me was like, wow.
So that like red pilled you on the topic, like seeing the deaths and everything, because no one ever sees like the Palestinian perspective, because it's like almost like in America, well, especially if you're a conservative, the default setting is we support Israel every single time, and you never even hear the other perspective. So, and I've said that too, like October 7th kind of opened up this discussion, whereas like I remember before it, like if you talked about it, you would get demonetized. And that's what got me demonetized was that topic, especially before October 7th. So you start talking about it. I remember you had debated a rabbi, I can't remember his name.
A couple of them, there was Rabbi Shmuly, and then there was idiot. Yeah. Who was? Oh gosh, I have to remember his name. He was my favorite. Candace. This is the worst anti-Semitism. He actually was low key my favorite because he was so over the top. He was so over the top, and he was like, you can't even say, what was it, witches? Skylar, what was the name of that rabbi? Barclay.
Yeah, that was his name. That was one of the last debates you did on Daily Wire, so I think you were still on the Daily Wire again. Did Ben ever like have a conversation with you about this? If you could disclose it, like, yeah. He just like never talked to you in person about this. He just like trashed you. And I remember seeing a clip of him like at some type of social gathering, like late in the year of that year, saying, "Oh yeah, I think what she's doing is despicable, blah blah blah." But he had never had a conversation with you.
No, and after that, we never had a conversation.
Wow.
So that happened, and that's we never had a conversation after that.
So he didn't even have the decency to like figure out, hey, what's going on here, have a conversation. You're just like,
I tried. It never happened. So.
Wow. Um. So you got banned from Australia. You got banned from Australia.
It's like gangster.
Yeah. And it was like,
Super bad.
because I talk, people try to tell me like, they talk about world Jewry being a thing and how, it's an international cabal that works together, for the betterment of Israel and they're located all across the world. And I use that example of how they got you literally banned in Australia, even though they represent like 2% of the population. How did that even happen? Like, how'd you get notified? Like, yeah, how'd that even come about?
I was going to tour in Australia and the Zionist lobby found out and they publicly posted, it was like the Zionist Organization of Australia, maybe it was ZOA, publicly posted this thing.
They're calling of APAC, right? Essentially.
Yeah, it's another APAC. There's so many of Zionist organizations. And I will say, on the conservative side of Australia, the Jewish conservatives did also write a letter in support of me saying, like, we disagree with her much, she should be able to speak. But they were effectively the ADL, and they posted this thing and publicly said that I should not be allowed in. My rhetoric was dangerous. They lied and said that I said that Jews. What did they say that I said? That Jews drink the blood of children, which was it's just like completely.
So libel.
It was unbelievable. I mean, the way that came about was me liking a tweet, literally a like of a tweet of a person who called out Rabbi Shmuley and said Rabbi Shmuley had told a huge lie about me. So they were replying to Rabbi Shmuley and said, you didn't include that she, and then like told the truth about what I said. And then they ended their thing with, I'm drunk on Christian blood again. So me liking this tweet.
Yeah. That's what they use.
Press cool. I mean, it's just unbelievable. Candace says, I'm like, are you kidding me? It was so obvious why I liked this tweet. Like, this person debunked for Rabbi Shmuley's lie, but this is how they lie.
Yeah.
This is how they lie.
They take everything literal.
They take everything literally.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
He looked at you, violence and Semites.
Yeah, and I'm like, obviously, I like this tweet because he defended, like, the big. Just really told a ridiculous lie. I have nothing to do with anything. Yeah, he said that my father was threatened to kill him or something very serious. And he was like, you're showing this inbox.
Didn't he try to sue you for that?
No, he threatened to sue. And so, yeah, it was quite a time, but they successfully got me banned. I've never been in trouble, nothing. And they decided that I am too dangerous to speak in their country. So that I still think, and this has been my belief, everything that is happening, God wants to happen. So when that happened, it was because Australians needed to understand something about their country. Because people who didn't like me, who didn't support me, or were conservative, kind of looked up and went, is this like mom of 4 being banned from our country? No matter what I think about her, I certainly don't think she's a threat, that she shouldn't be allowed in. And we've got literally people who have been accused of murder, people who have violated their visas in other countries, people that rap about murder are allowed in here, and you're telling me she's saying something that's so dangerous, and it, I think, contributed to more people listening to my podcast. What is she saying? So I do feel we are in this time where the more that they lie, it rebounds very quickly onto them, and it creates more pressure against them, and they can't stop lying. So
yeah, because you can never lie once, right? Like they always say, when you lie once, then you have to keep lying to perpetuate that same lie.
Right.
So New Zealand also banned you, right? And then you were able to get. How'd you go about being allowed to come back to New Zealand? Did they write a petition?
Actually, their person. So they have a reciprocal system, which is weird. But if Australia bans you, you get automatically banned in New Zealand. So New Zealand didn't actually ban me. Tony Burke in Australia banned me, and they have some weird reciprocal system. Then when they found out, their minister, and his name was Chris something, I should remember it, was like, I'm just against this, and he reversed it.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so he had the power to reverse it. So New Zealand actually stood firm on free speech.
I didn't know that. So like, basically, when one party does something, the other one kind of reciprocates it.
Yeah.
They do have some type of veto. Mm-hmm. What other ways, I guess, has the Zionist lobby came after you? I've seen ADL articles. I've seen SPLC, right? They target me too.
Oh gosh, it was everything. It was everything. Did
they lobby to get you demonetized on YouTube too?
Absolutely. Yeah, that came from the Awesome Jew.
Yeah.
The Awesome Jew, which was in attendance, by the way, when Charlie got peer pressured in the Hamptons. And yeah, it was just a full court. They were like, just start mass reporting her for violence and violent rhetoric, and they did that. And then I had no strikes, and then I went to all strikes overnight. And YouTube demonetized us. We were demonetized for 6 months, I think. it was like September, maybe it was 4 months. And so that was, you can't make any money on YouTube. So we had to then, yeah, we had to then build our own website, which we did. So what it forces you to do is to kind of to become your own power center, right? If you ban people everywhere and you say you can't, you're not allowed to fight in this realm, we're going to start building our own realms. And I think they're learning that lesson is that there seems to be the opposite thing that's happening. So they would attack us on YouTube. They obviously got petitioned to get me fired, banned from Australia. They went after like my family members. Obviously, they tried to pretend that there was all this friction between me and my husband's father, and that could not be further from the truth. I love my husband's family. They have always treated me very well. But they wanted that narrative out there because it was all part of the cancellationists. Even though our family hates her, no, we have different viewpoints. Like, people can support Israel, people cannot support Israel. You don't marry into ideas.
Yeah, of course. Disagreements.
Right. And yeah, just think what else they attacked. It's been nonstop. And then of course the lawsuits, nonstop legal lawfare.
Here's everything I got from resume.co in like 5 minutes. I logged in, picked a layout, filled in my info, adjusted a few things, and downloaded a plain professional resume. That's it. Resume.co has over 200 customizable templates.
So right now, between you, Tucker, Nick, they're attacking all three of you guys, saying you guys are anti-Semites and you guys are pushing this whole thing. And I give credit because you three have done an incredible job of, awareing the American public on this topic when it comes to Israel's control of the Middle East, what they're doing over there, how they've been able to get away with this for so long, killing people and no one knowing. And, they've been targeting you guys quite a bit. And I see that, there's been a bunch of drama with Megyn Kelly and Ben Shapiro and everything else like that. What are your thoughts on on the situation? Because anytime they mention Tucker, you're right there, right? When it comes to the criticism of Israel.
Yeah, even Bibi Netanyahu name checking us was crazy.
Yeah.
On the TikTok thing, why they needed to buy TikTok, they're letting you know this is a psychological operation. That's what they're telling you. They've gone masked down, and they've just come more inward. I have no idea why they kept attaching you to Tucker Carlson. They wanted both of us gone, and
Everyone loves you.
yeah, I know. They force fired me, and then they realized, oh, we can't control them, and we started having to build our own power centers, and they didn't like that. Exactly. So, and then the Nick Fuentes thing, I promise you, I had never heard the Nick Fuentes backstory until after I was fired from Daily Wire. There was this Twitter audio space that he did with Jeremy Boring, who at that time was the CEO of Daily Wire. And I heard the backstory. I was like, this is insane what happened to him. Nobody can look at that backstory of what happened to him and not realize that it was just evil.
They did everything they can to contain him.
He had his life ahead of him. And so you kind of root for that. You're like, no matter what I feel about him, I root for him against the Zionist lobby. And this rule that you can't speak to Nick, why can't I speak to Nick? Can't my audience decide whether or not they want to listen to him? There's this false idea of platforming him, that somehow that's going to be harmful, and you can't platform him. If I platform him and Nick seems likable, right, and then he goes on his show and he says horrific things, and my listeners then go over to his show, they're not going to keep listening to Nick.
Yeah.
They're actually then going to have questions about me.
Yeah.
People decide.
Yeah.
You don't get to think for people.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as platforming ideas. If people are following that idea, that is on the people. And they are smart enough to make their own decisions. I don't need to tell people to listen to Nick, to not listen to Nick, to platform Nick, to not platform Nick. If I want to talk to Nick, I'll talk to Nick. If I don't want to talk to Nick, I don't talk to Nick. And there's something about the true free markets that Zionists can't stand. They're constantly manipulating the markets so that people think that they are number one, and they're not. They actually require censorship in order for them to be number one.
Yeah, and that's their game. And I seen Ben Shapiro have a meltdown. They had the Republican Jewish coalition a couple weeks ago, and just saying like, oh, these people are platforming whatever. I find it interesting how they never because if you actually listen to the interviews that you guys do a lot of the times, it's like, oh, this makes perfect sense. I understand why you have this worldview. They never criticize what you guys talk about, right? They always criticize you guys directly, saying, "Don't pushing anti-Semitism." What are they saying that's anti-Semitic? Well, it's just anti-Semitic, and they don't even want to have the discussion, the debate,
the truth
or anything. Yeah.
Yeah, because when you hear Nick Fuentes' backstory, it's compelling. It just is. I was compelled when I heard it. I actually haven't gotten around to watching anything with Tucker. It's on my to-do list this weekend, but I'm assuming he told his backstory.
Yep.
And then people look at it and go, what is up with the Zionist lobby that they're going after 18-year-old kids for questioning Israel? That's actually what they're fearful of, is people understanding just how long this has been going on, how vicious it is that it will even go after an 18-year-old who's just asking questions literally. And yeah, I think that's what it is. It's the mass awakening that's happening.
Yeah, no, and you know, I credit you, Tucker, Nick, some of the biggest voices in it, like waking people up to this problem that we've had for so long, right? I mean, it got us into wars, and I do think that we're making an impact on it because when I remember when Trump bombed Iran, he had a lot of pressure on him not to do it, right? And he was like kind of going back and forth. I know Steve Bannon had like went to the White House and told him don't do it or at least push it off a little bit, and he bombed him and then he ended it there, right? Who knows if if he didn't have that pressure from his base to not go to war, if he had it would have expanded the conflict because we know Israel wanted to, right? If this was like 2003, who knows if we wouldn't have just gotten into like a full-on war? But I think big voices in social media that we didn't have back in 03 were able to kind of pressure like, hey, we voted for no wars, like, and then it kind of forced them to be like, I want to keep the base. All right, just bomb them and get out of here, because that was even very unpopular.
And then you saw the neocons go, "Oh, you were panicking. So it was just going to be in the whole time. You guys were just panicking, and it was just one response. You thought there was going to be a broader war." And John Miller put it quite succinctly. He tweeted and he said, "No, it's because we panicked and freaked out that this didn't happen. This is like saying robbers outside trying to rob your house. Your dogs start barking, and the robber goes away. And I'm like, oh, you were just panicking. It's like, no, it's because the dogs were barking that this thing didn't happen. So no, every time." Which by the way, he still wants to war with Iran. They still want a regime change in Iran, and we have to continue to bark and continue to say that it's not okay. And it worked because we held the line on it and used our platforms to say this is the red line.
Yeah, no wars, and he literally was very ambiguous about it for days. So, and I think a big part of that is from all the pressure from his base with people that have big platforms, and this is kind of a beautiful thing where we have with alternative media, because I remember, and you remember too, we're around the same age. The Iraq War, there was no dissent. We're going and nobody cares, and we don't, there was no one else talking about it. The news was super pro-war, everyone wanted to go to war, and it wasn't until 10, 15 years later that the smoke evaporated, and we're like, oh, this was a waste of time. Why did we go to, Saddam has nothing to do with Bin Laden, like it didn't make sense.
All right, you guys, maybe you owe back taxes, maybe you have not filed your taxes in years. They're powerful, waiving your right to...
So,
what if you could taste the movies?
We turned that idea into an $11.3 million business.
let me ask you about, I guess, real quick with Harvey Weinstein. What got you interested in like getting his story out there?
So actually, I started working on the Harvey Weinstein documentary when I was at the Daily Wire, which, so somebody on his team reached out to me because they thought that I would be the only person that would look at this fairly, which is interesting because obviously he's gave millions to the ADL. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we were this very unlikely duo, and I thought he was guilty. I thought there had to have been some guilt. I mean, there were so many women that were coming out. But this is how the media is effective at psychology, is that they know if they say something over and over again, it becomes true. And actually, I realized I didn't know anything about the case. And when I took a look at it, I was shocked. There is no question that Harvey Weinstein should not be in prison. And
that's the definition of Me Too right there.
Yeah, they took him out.
Yeah.
Who took him out, why they took him out, that part still is not clear to me. But it should terrify any woman, especially me who has 3 sons, that they can do that. I think Me Too, what it represented was hostile takeovers of companies. That's kind of a theme, right? If you start to go back, you look at from Michael Jackson to Kanye to Britney Spears, these are hostile takeovers of companies. And I think Me Too was a proliferation where they hostilely took over a bunch of companies. And that's my instinct about it. And he was big. So maybe he wasn't playing ball. I actually do now have it on my mind that I want to ask him about this argument he had with Jeffrey Epstein that I learned about. I was very passionate about just telling the truth because the Me Too movement is problematic. I have a real investment in this. I have sons. So I don't care what people think or need to think. I'm not voting for him to be my husband. I'm not voting for him to be the president of the United States. I'm not voting for him to be my pastor. I'm telling you that he was accused of something and the media completely lied to you about the circumstances. And it should terrify you because it means that our courts are corrupted. And they are. We know that. We know our courts are corrupted. Why? Maybe through the same system of blackmail. They've got judges in their pockets. But there is, that's a part of the matrix. The court system is a part of it.
And I give you credit because you're very brave for doing that. Because just like with the George Floyd documentary that you did, which was going against the grain, right? A lot of people gave you slack for that, like, oh, why are you inviting this and why are you going ahead and trying to destroy the legacy of George Floyd? So I give you a lot of credit for because I do think that this whole Me Too situation and false accusations is very real.
It matters.
Athletes and professionals are constantly getting accused of stuff. I mean, we can look at what's going on with Andrew Tate, where it's like every other month something is getting dropped, or a lawsuit is being dropped here, or they're finding out that this woman lied here, or there was I think a pro soccer player that recently got out after having his life destroyed. So this Me Too thing is a huge problem in the Western world. So let me ask you this with Charlie Kirk, because you're definitely one of the most outspoken people when it comes to the Charlie Kirk investigation and what's going on there. Obviously, you knew him personally. You guys have worked together for many years. I'll kind of just turn it to you, and you can just tell me, because you've been looking at this for a while now. It's almost it's over 2 months now. Can you take us through what you think happened on that day? What led you to believe that? And the timeline in general, who you think is actually responsible, who might be things up, or anything like that.
Yeah, so I can tell you that I view the Charlie Kirk assassination as a military hit. I do not know who called the hit yet, but it's military. There's no question in my mind that it was a military hit. I don't view the U.S. military as being controlled by the U.S. I mean, there are a lot of people we've been globalized for a very long time. I don't know that there's a difference there's decisions that are made in Ukraine for America. I mean, this is the tentacles of the U.S. military. It's a much broader and longer conversation that needs to be had. I mean, I think since JFK was assassinated, I don't know who's in control of anything, right? Much of what we see in the political realm is just an illusion. We're talking about what's happening in Congress, and decisions are made in rooms, in my view. With Charlie, I think that with everything that I have uncovered, there was very clearly a faith infiltration that happened. And I'm putting faith in quotation marks because Charlie would have believed the people that came to him and told him to grow the organization and, to become the boots on the ground for faith. He cared very deeply about his faith. And the cast of characters and the pastors that are around him, rotten, very rotten. The McCoys, Rob McCoy, unbelievably rotten. And I've been covering a lot with him. And what it's looking like is that Calvary Chapel has been accused of tons in the past, and also accused of hostilely taking over well-meaning faith organizations and ministries, with Rob McCoy at the center of some of these scandals. It's looking to me like Turning Point's apparatus provided an opportunity. Now, who they're actually working for, what they're actually doing, I don't know. But I can tell you it is not about Jesus Christ, okay?
Okay.
And this would explain why, for some unknown reason, Christian Zionist influencers have been losing their minds about the idea of investigating the Charlie Kirk assassination. It's odd. I looked up and I'm going, why are Christian Zionists trying to use Bible verses to say that we shouldn't question anything? I mean, everybody knows you were a cop. Mm-hmm. The first thing you do when there's been a murder is to look around at the money, the finances, and the people around them. Common sense. And then you pair that with the actual impossible things that they are telling us. It was a Christian miracle. His neck just stopped a 30-06 from 150 yards away. It was just your modern Christian miracle, That's bed slop, but it's worse than that. It's Christian slop. People using the Bible to psychologically convince you. Jesus performed miracles, and this was just one of them. Charlie loved his faith. They're lying about weird stuff. I consider it a clue that they are lying about where Charlie was at in terms of his faith journey. They lied about the Hampton Summit. They lied about the fact that he had said, I have no choice but to abandon the pro-Israel cause. I just watched them all lie because I needed to see where all the stakes were. These are weird lies.
Yeah.
The one thing that connects all of these lies is faith. So that's where the focus of my investigation is right now. And I'm coming up, looking, and going, all of these characters are dirty that were around him. So you're not going to hold up a Bible like a false prophet and tell me not to look here, or else I'm going to be condemned to hell. Because let me tell you how the Bible works, okay? Christ is king. What that means is truth is king. And if anybody is using the Bible to tell you not to pursue truth, you are dealing with somebody who is manipulating you.
Who do you think, I guess, I know you said the people around him, but who do you think is the most responsible? Why would they want him gone?
I think Charlie was not allowed to be anything but a Christian Zionist. And he was changing in the last few weeks. When I look at the timeline that I put together, some weird stuff, this Egyptian plane that was started tracking him, everything began ratcheting up after Tucker Carlson hit the stage. And
In July.
Mm-hmm,
Oh, yeah,
and he,
for that.
yeah, that was a something.
Yeah.
So I think Charlie was done, as Megan showed the video. He was telling Tucker to go max. All the things that they lied about, we've now proven. And why were they lying about it? That's why this is the thing. Why lie if you have nothing to cover up? That's my common sense here. You only lie because you have something to cover up. No matter what the lie is, you only lie because there's something that you're hiding. So if they had all come out right when Charlie died, if Seth Dillon, who pressed Charlie in the Hamptons, was like, oh my gosh, my biggest regret is the last time I saw Charlie, I was being such a jerk about the Israel. I'm so stupid. It was just a reminder that you never know when you're going to see somebody last. So it was like, oh, okay, nothing to see here. It was like a full court press effort to lie about everything. Josh Hammer, he never blinked on Israel. He was on the text message chain where Charlie said 48 hours before he died that he was done with the provisional cause. Why lie? That's my question. And I don't like the silence from Turning Point employees. I know for a fact one of them, I'm not going to name, has a text message from Charlie the day before he died saying, they are going to kill me. Now, he was not referring to the trans lobby when he wrote that message.
Yeah.
So why not, if you are his friend and you're interested in the truth, why wouldn't you tell the public that? Wouldn't you just come right out to the public and say, hey, I don't know what happened, but like Charlie thought they were going to kill him. I do not like the way Turning Point is behaving. I've made that clear. And nobody is going to emotionally manipulate me and tell me that it's all good now. And to attack Turning Point would be to attack his legacy. Charlie told me years ago that he had, which I shared the messages. He was having a ton of visions and was telling me that Turning Point was going to be death of him. He knew he was going to die young. And strangely knew that I was going to be the only person to defend him. I showed the messages.
Yeah.
I showed the messages.
It was fake and you pulled it up and yeah.
So it's we're here now, and I'm going to defend him. I'm going to figure out what happened.
What are your thoughts on how Erica Kirk has been dealing with this and some of the people that are close to him, his manager, Mike, and all them? Like, do you think they're just playing a role? Do you think they're involved? What are your thoughts on them in general? There's some of the people in his circle.
It is obvious to me that Mikey McCoy was the person that they wanted to launch as the new Charlie. That's very obvious. The way they brought his YouTube channel back with a speech from Mikey, and everyone was kind of trying to soft sell Mikey to us, and was like, "Who's this kid? You're 23. Why are you the chief of staff of anything? How old are you actually?" And you're brought in by Rob, your dad, who is dirty. I mean, very dirty. I covered more of that yesterday. He just gives me the sleaze and the ick, and it just is very strange that I felt like they tried to manipulate us into accepting this, almost like they had like, Mikey's going to be this person. Then we see Mikey, he's a hero, and he just walks away for somebody. That doesn't make any sense to me. And yeah, with Erica, a lot of people on the internet have been going into her past, going into her parents' past, and just speaking about these things.
Defense contractors, stuff like that.
Yeah, I've seen all of that. I responded to that on my show, and what I've said to everybody is I'm starting with what happened on that day, what happened leading up to his assassination, and the people that catch my attention are people who are telling lies. Okay. Erica thus far has not told any verifiable lies. She did not lie about the fact that he had St. Michael on him when he died. So there's two things. She could be on autopilot, and some people could be reading that wrong way and thinking, oh, well, she's not acting right. Okay. Is she on autopilot because she fears something? Right? Again, we don't know what's happening behind the scenes, but you have to have some level of fear if you watch somebody get assassinated.
If you want to have an extremely quality life, if you'd like to take 2026 and make it the best year ever,
I don't know. I just don't know.
Yeah.
And so people have been upset with me for not going, down the rabbit hole on my show about Erica's parents. People's parents are people's parents. They haven't yet come up in my investigation. If I find out that her parents were involved, and then it's going to catch my investigation. There's nobody that will be spared once they come up, once they tell a lie, I come across something. I just literally have not come across anything with Frank Turek. Also, I haven't come across anything with Erica in my investigation. So,
The shooter, or the alleged shooter, you think they're a patsy?
of course, they're past it. I mean, come on, it's just so dumb. He wasn't even on campus that day. They can't show us one clear image, not even one. All of these cameras, Turning Point has everything in 4K. So shouldn't you have caught the shooter on the roof in 4K? Like, you had cameras everywhere that day. Every inch of that campus was covered.
Someone else that was running.
Absolutely. Someone that just, I don't even know if there was a person that sprinted that day, because everyone's forgetting. There was also a news report that came out a week before that somebody was on the roof, and a professor came out and waved the person. Or maybe had been dropping off a gun, dropping off the screwdriver. I don't know.
There's one video, like one of the students had.
But that person who took that video that I had to track down, military.
Really?
Everybody's military in the story.
Really? So the person that captured that, because I remember when it first broke out, that cell phone footage got released where the shot goes off, and for some odd reason he's looking at the roof, and you see like a little speck laying on the top. So that person that took that video was military.
I got in touch with the person, and they didn't put the video up themselves. I had to go through 3 people. I'm like, so I'm supposed to believe you're like a college kid and you have nothing to do with anything. You just decide to randomly be like, oh, I got this video, but I'm gonna send it through 3 people to have it released.
Interesting.
And also the Losey building, where the shot definitely did not come from, is the only place on campus that houses, I believe on the 3rd floor, according to my source, like the military something is in the Losey building. So there's a lot happening. All of that was just a show to mask who the real shooter was. I think it's way more likely that the shooter was in the audience, to the side of the audience. I think that's the more likely story, because he wasn't shot with 30-06 first and foremost, and the bullet, it did not destroy his neck. I know that for a fact. And he actually
30-06 throws everybody off.
But that was their plan.
Yeah.
Until I accidentally, which I didn't even process it at the time, revealed that the bullet didn't go through.
Yeah.
And they called like, oh, it was just a miracle. Actually, it was no 30-06.
Yeah, the text messages are a bit strange too. And, this whole situation, like, I wish the government was being a bit more transparent, because this has an incredible amount of public interest. So it's like, look, dude, you guys probably should be more transparent on this, because government trust is down at its lowest when it comes to people trusting law enforcement, whatever. What are your thoughts on how the FBI and the state police are handling this in general? Because I know you've been.
I think what's way more important is trusting Alexis Wilkins as a sensational singer, and
Careful, she might sue you.
I don't want to talk about like the feds right now. Like, they're doing what they have to. The more important thing is that this sensational country singer is left alone. We are just not a serious nation. I mean, I think if Putin's FBI director put that out, Putin would just quietly have him assassinated or something. I don't know. We're just a serious nation. That is just, they are tweeting like girls on TikTok right now. And it's embarrassing. It is so embarrassing. He should have been forced to resign. Trump should have made him resign. We're embarrassing us, because there's no way Putin's not laughing with his homies right now about that tweet. My girlfriend, my life partner. We are
a bunch of people.
crazy. Yeah. And obviously with his blessing, where you would say, hey, honey, not now.
Yeah.
Take as a serious man.
Optically, yeah.
Yeah. And of course, the opposite thing happens. Now we're having himself on honey pot. And so, what she gonna do? Like whack-a-mole, just sue everybody on the internet? I was making a joke, sue Tim Dillon or something.
Yeah, that's absolutely nuts. So, it'd be fair to say, so you don't believe the official narrative, and I do agree. There's a lot of problems with it, right? Between a 30-06. Why don't we have the full footage of him taking the shot, then running off? You're only showing him running. The text messages are strange.
They don't even show us him taking the shot.
Yeah,
that seems like a pretty easy thing to do.
That's one of my biggest issues, is they didn't show him taking the shot, but they have him running across the roof. So it's like, how do you not have him prone shooting the shot? So I guess, and I know you're still investigating and figuring everything out, but if you can kind of give me a quick summary, what do you think transpired in that day? Who do you think's responsible? maybe a rough timeline? I know you're still filling part two,
Yeah.
but from what you have so far,
So
what do you
this is
think?
a guess, and this is just like if I had to guess right now where I'm at, and I think Tyler Robinson's only contribution was that he had his prints on the gun. I know that his prints were not the only prints that were on the gun, which is something that they haven't been honest about. I would so
Yeah, on that too.
yeah, I think Lance Twiggs is much more involved. I don't think he took the shot either, but I think he's more involved. I think that Tyler Robinson's all of the people that were involved that day got swept up in pedophile stuff. George Zinn, the guy that cheered, his father is also a pedophile. The guy next, I mean, the whole thing is like it was an operation with blackmailed people.
The Zin guy was at 9/11 too.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, just unbelievable. And again, more of a marker that this was like a blackmail operation. Also, Zinn told a nurse that he was being paid. He didn't know how he was going to be paid for doing that after, so he was supposed to be another patsy. And
Yeah, because it was like immediate.
Oh, yeah.
Like
It was
when this all
scroll.
broke out, he got arrested and he was like, it was out in the news like immediately.
Multiple people involved that day. One person maybe just supposed to run across the rooftop. Another, I think Tyler Robinson, all his job was to pick up clothes. I think literally he didn't step foot on campus that day. And his job was to get rid of the clothes next to the Dairy Queen to some cemetery, which and the FBI is not disputed. But they decided to monitor the Dairy Queen afterwards and send some feds there. And yeah, so his role was to pick up clothes. I think Lance is actually the one that's walking in the backpack. And
TMZ footage.
yep, I think that's Lance. I don't know who was walking up the stairs. I think that's a whole different person because they don't even look like they have the same body. And yeah, that's how you do a nice kind of you got a bunch of patsies doing different roles.
And then it shows the video of the stairway footage either, which is another thing that's strange.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Well, no, I mean, I see there's a lot of, and I said it before, they've created more questions than answers, right? Which is obviously the problem here. But I know we're short for time here, so I'll just, yeah, where can people find you?
I mean, everywhere.
You're everywhere.
Yeah, that's your
local
local news. It's being sued. If
Yeah.
you'd like to find me, your local news station being called anti-Semite.
One last thing. Do you think, because I know Turning Point had said something about we're going to go after anyone that's saying anything. Have they like reached out to you at all or contacted you? Because you're probably one of the most outspoken critical folks going on with this investigation.
Happy to have any person at Turning Point on my show to discuss anything that I'm saying, to make any corrections about anything that I'm saying. They can make a statement for all I care. I'm not going to stop investigating this until we're told something that makes sense, makes rational sense, and not going to tell me like you do with Israel that I'll get into heaven if I just ignore how Charlie Kirk was killed. I'm not going to play that game. So say something that makes sense, or you have an enemy of me. That's pretty much it. And if you didn't want people prying into this narrative, maybe you shouldn't have executed him publicly. Maybe you should have pretended he choked on an egg or something. I think it was that rapper a long while back when he started asking questions about things. Not a good idea to get everyone emotionally invested in the story and then tell them to shut off their emotions.
No, I mean, you're doing an incredible job of putting a lot of pressure on them, right? So hopefully we, get answers here because what they have out right now just simply doesn't make sense.
Right.
So thank you so much, Candace. I appreciate
Thank you. It was so great.
it. Yeah.
And also, thank you for being so patient because I know my schedule's so crazy with so many kids, and so it's like we just gotta make it happen. I was like, just get them down here.
Yeah, you're a mom and family, so I totally understand. So thank you so much.
Anytime.
Switch to TurboTax. File free in the app.
Bye.